A thread by Pat Scopoliti, 14 December 2020, hashtag MAGA analysis, hashtag overturn. It's the waiting that's the hardest part. You're going to hear the Electoral College has voted Joe Biden POTUS 46 today. That Trump's attack against the sanctity of a democratic election has failed. But I will still patiently wait. Why will I patiently wait? First, because I know the power, reach, and corruption of the lying liars who are still working feverishly to steal a landslide election away from us. We, the people of America, chose Donald Trump as our president. It was a landslide. As all the media outlets tell you, we're all done. Notorious Joe is POTUS 46. Don't believe them yet. In all the analysis I've seen, the only date that matters is the inauguration. Between now and then, I await guidance from General Flynn and President Trump. Many of my friends, such as my wonderful brother John Stancic, keep asking me for action as opposed to study or analysis. I'm going to offer a soft form of guidance on that point right now. Hashtag overturn, hashtag stop the steal. Beat the drum and beat it loud. Words matter. Truth matters. We know that this election is in process of being stolen before our very eyes. We know that. We don't have to guess. We know. So let us speak. Words are actions. Use your words. This election is being stolen. We shall not let that happen. People are slow. They can't take in too much information at once. Don't get fancy. Let's all focus on a single point. Hashtag Dominion is evil. I don't know if that's the best hashtag. I do know it is the point to express. Dominion is the means by which this election is being stolen. Now, let's go deeper. I don't imagine we can persuade many over this point, but we need to be clear. You can hack a nation. You can subvert its every institution. You can create the lie that becomes the truth, and we are the marks the lie is targeted toward. Study is action too. Please stop thinking of study as if it had nothing to do with fighting power. Remember, knowledge leads to action. Certain knowledge leads to unstoppable action. We will finish up on J.E. Dyer's article today. The analytical foundation she gives us matters. Here are J.E.'s points. 1. There is a main effort. Quote, the point is to engage the American people. The point is to get the state legislatures to hear evidence in a format that brings them before their constituents and confront the evidence publicly. The main point is, quote, the point is to face the nation in the forums that matter with the reality of what just happened, end quote. You want action? Action is to shout and to shout out loud. You know this election is being stolen. Shout everywhere and shout out loud. Here are J.E.'s first 2 points. 1, the main effort, state legislatures. 2, the visible supporting effort, the courts. Quote, the supporting effort we have seen so far, as alert readers may guess, is the approach through the courts. The courts are so corrupt that we cannot expect to win at law. American law has fallen. We are no longer a legal state. That's why it is merely a supporting effort to be at law. Its sole purpose is to establish question of theft where we know theft occurred. J.E.'s third point, To summarize, the main effort, state legislatures. Two, the visible supporting effort, the courts. And three, the key support effort. The US government has been making use of tools to gather intelligence on conditions that pose an obvious threat to United States national security. There is no greater threat to our national security than a president whose victory was stolen and paid for by our greatest enemy. This is the rallying point. We must never allow such a travesty to occur. With that, we have now completed our J.E. Dyer's work. Her article demands, as you've noticed, many readings to extract its full value. She helps us through the waiting period while Trump and team execute their strategy. It was good study. I'm ready to go brew my second pot of coffee for the morning, and we'll be back in a bit to finish up. To continue our meditation today, I'd like to turn to ancient Japan and the samurai. It is argued by many that the Japanese longsword, called a katana, is the greatest sword in all of history. I don't make that case, as my own swords are European, but it's a good case. When it comes to the culture of the warrior and its code, the samurai version, called Bushido, is one of the greatest ever documented. Every warrior of every nation should study it. From Amazon.com, Bushido, the Soul of Japan. Link in the thread. Our work today centers around a strange term with a strange history. The term is misogi. If you ask a modern Japanese person, I have, what this word means, if they know it at all, they'll give you something about punishment. Seriously. In the culture of modern business in Japan, failure is not allowed. When it occurs, it must be punished. Have you ever heard of window men? Their job is to show up on time, sit at a desk, look out the window all day till time to leave, come back tomorrow, and repeat. This is called misogi now. The tie to its ancient meaning is simply that of cleansing. After a failure, if you can return and work again, you have to have been cleansed of whatever caused the failure. But this is almost the opposite meaning of the ancient one. The ancient meaning comes from the practice of sharpening your sword in the morning before sunrise, the day of the impending battle. In general, it referred simply to the literal act of sharpening your sword. When a master sword maker finishes his sword, it is delivered with an edge so fine it can easily cut through paper, but so strong it can go against steel. In each and every encounter, the edge is blunted. Physics decree Physics decree that. Thus, the sword must be resharpened. Picture your left leg, knee up, with your torso leaning perfectly upon it. Your right leg is bent with your right ankle ensconced behind your left foot's heel. You have a sequence of sharpening stones in front of you from coarse to fine. Wherever your blade took the greatest damage, you must use the coarse stone to correct the nicks and breaks. As you do, you must be so careful not to cause more damage than you're repairing. You seek smooth calm in every motion. You hold your sword in both hands, bladed end facing away from you. You don't use your hands and arms so much as your well planted torso in a slow, rocking motion. Can you hear the swishing sound of blade on stone? It's a type of oval motion in each direction. As damage is gently ground away, you switch from coarse to finer stones, always with gentle love and care. No rush, no hurry or scurry, perfect focus. as if nothing else in the world matters, as truly nothing else in the world matters. To delve this ritual, we must remember a couple of bedrock principles of the samurai. One was the sword is the soul of the samurai. This was no mere analogy for them. They believed in their swords as living beings, spirits, the hand of the gods. This tied to something called the life giving sword. Think of that. An evil man is coming to slay your family. Using your sword, one with your sword, you slay him. You have saved the lives of your family. Your sword was life giving. Consider the power to take and give life. What is that if not divine? The very instrument of, as the Japanese believed, the gods. I must give you a bit more personal context. As long as I live, I will never forget the moment that I purchased my first true, sharp sword. The very first thing I felt with all my body and soul was that it is impossible to lift this weapon up and not know you have danger in your hands. It awakens something in the soul. The second principle of the ancient samurai was a bit more complex, believe it or not. It is not the sharp sword, but rather the sharp soul that defeats the enemy. While the sword is the soul of the samurai, it is also at the same time but an extension of his own soul. Consider, in the real world of combat, bad things happen. A sword is broken, or worse, lost. You must be able to face your enemy empty handed. Imagine that you capture your enemy's sword and slay him with it. It was not your sharp sword, but rather his that killed him. The key to the principle is simply that there can be no separation between warrior and weapon, be it his strong hands and arms or his perfect sword, no matter. The warrior is himself the ultimate weapon, and that requires spiritual preparation. What must it take to be ready to die or kill in the coming battle? How does one prepare oneself for such? Never having been in combat, I do not claim to know. I report what I have studied. However, I do have my own personal application. I have been a self employed business coach since 1987. I must prepare myself for work every day, and on any day that my preparation is weak, I fail. I have two different forms of preparation required. One is to serve, and the other is to sell. I must do both each day. These many decades since I learned about the samurai and their practice of misogi in the early morning hours before the day of battle, I have struggled to engage the practice for myself. I claim no mastery, but I am also not inexperienced in it. We must add a final concept that swordsmanship teaches us. If you choose to attack, you must not imagine that one strike will end the fight. Rather, your first strike's purpose is to cause a defensive reaction in your enemy. Every reaction creates an opening. Then, you must not imagine that the first opening will offer you the kill strike. The vast majority of openings, especially early ones, are easily closed off. This is not the path to victory. Rather, your second strike must be designed to widen the next opening. You can think of an opening as a thing of physical motion, his sword versus yours, etc. Or you may think of it in terms of time. How long will it take for his sword to close off the opening where you may strike with yours? Wide openings are both. They are distant and requiring much time. This is the discipline of methodical swordsmanship. You see, with every strike, you too create your own openings. Note There is no such thing as an openings-free strike, as every strike causes you to commit to a motion in one direction. The other side of your body is open, so your risk-taking must be controlled. But of course, the very definition of combat is the acceptance of risk. So you take your risks as you must, minimizing them as you can. In all, you wait and wait and wait. You wait for an indication of a possible weakness of guard. You test your enemy's responsive time and opportunistic capability. Does he see your strike coming and adapt, taking your opening as his opportunity? That is a dangerous enemy. You step back and recalibrate. You wait again. You've made an excellent first strike. Your enemy's sword is far from closing his opening. You're so tempted to commit to the kill strike. You wisely control yourself. You never give all to a false opening, even if it's not actually false, as you cannot yet know. You wait. There's a kind of opening that holds death within. In this opening, it is beyond physics or spirit to cover. There is a sweet sadness in the moment. Victory is sure, but you don't hate your enemy. You must slay him, and you do without hesitating. But you think of his son also. Before I complete this excursion into sword combat, I must identify my actual weapon in engagement. It is a rubber sword that is as close to perfectly safe as possible. When we skirmish, we do so with safety as our highest objective. I know, ironic, right? Now you must let me brag a bit. Younger, more athletic, more well-trained and well-practiced men than I have often fell to my fighting. Not because I'm so good at it. My advantage is I am able to enter the moment hypothetically as if we had sharp swords and lives on the line. If I have one thing I think I am actually good at, it is waiting. Have you made the connection yet? Do you see where I'm heading? Friends, I don't know what the election's outcome will be. I know it was a landslide. I know that the China paid Democrats and all their corrupt associates from media to judiciary will stop at nothing to steal this election, and for all I know, they may succeed. I do not predict that. I believe in Donald Trump. I believe he has a strategy, the tactics, and the soul hardened readiness to claim the victory that is his, and that America so desperately needs and so richly deserves. If I'm to make a call, that's it. But true discipline is not built on hope or prediction. True discipline is simply to show up, ready for what may come. As the samurai was sharpening his sword before battle, he did not know if he would die or kill that day. He had to be ready for either. You might have gathered that this is not the first time I've taught the Misogi lesson. I teach it to all my clients about their own daily practice of business. There are two more points I always make. The first comes from the Native American battle cry, "This is a good day to die." The second comes from a great Klingon warrior named Gowron. When challenged to the death for right of leadership and after killing his challenger, he was warned that one day he would die. Not missing a beat, he said, "That's true, but not today." In future meditations, we'll walk through all the steps that led from being loyal colonists faithful to our crown to furious revolutionaries declaring our independence upon the world stage, the first such colony to ever break ties with its parent nation. It was not our punch drunk, rum fueled fury that won us our revolution. It was the inexorable logic of Britain's tyrannies and our sober assessment of the Crown's and Parliament's wrongdoing. There's no way to call it less than a decade's transformation. We can wait out these weeks for General Flynn and President Trump to guide us. When they do, we'll act. Between now and then, we wait, friends, ready and prepared, patient, with fierce confidence. Today is a good day to die, but not today.
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.